The following is a special presentation of HBO Sports.
He's a three-time world champion, undefeated. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Macho time. He's fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Tonight, the challenger, ladies and gentlemen, Greg Haugen.
3 months ago, these same two fighters met, headed in opposite directions. For Greg Haugen, a battle with Hector Camacho could have been a fitting farewell to boxing's spotlight. After all, Camacho was just one respectable opponent away from the most lucrative payday of his career. But as we've observed in the past, boxing is the theater of the unexpected.
He had to take off 3 or 4 pounds yesterday. He was fortunate that the weigh-in was yesterday instead of this morning. And you can see him looking at the scale as though he's looking at Chavez. He thinks this has been his main fight. What Haugen is looking for, Jim, is a long, grueling fight, hoping to take Camacho into deep water with his conditioning. Now, here's one of the puzzlements of Hector Camacho. He's so fast-handed. He's probably stronger than Haugen. Why isn't he more anxious to step in and go with him?
And Haugen goes down from a solid right-hand counter. The very committed Greg Haugen told us they'd have to carry him from the ring for him to lose the bout.
Let's keep in mind, this is Haugen's hometown. Camacho doesn't want to get into a close, tough fight.
Padilla takes a point away from Camacho in what could be a monumental turn of events. If this fight is close, that's a big moment.
Art Laurie scores the bout, 114 to 113 for the winner by split decision. And new champion, Greg Haugen.
But Greg Haugen's tenure as WBO champion would be short. Post-fight physical turned up marijuana in his system. The WBO stripped him. The Nevada Commission fined him. And tonight we have the rematch, live from Reno, Nevada.
A smashing right hand on Graham helpless against the ropes. Combinations by Michael Spinks.
He's not afraid, Barry. Can Ray Leonard do it?
Tonight, World Championship Boxing comes to you live from Reno, Nevada, as Hector Macho Camacho takes on Greg Haugen in a junior welterweight fight scheduled for 12 rounds. Mid-May snow has again dusted the Sierra Nevada mountains this past week as nature clings to the last breath of winter here, but 10,000 feet below. On the desert floor of the biggest little city in the world, the feeling is anything but chilly as the Reno Convention Center begins to heat up in anticipation of this spirited rematch, one which is expected to settle an uncomfortable score and answer the many nagging questions left over from Haugen Camacho 1. And good evening, everybody, and welcome back to what is a landmark night in the 18-year history of World Championship Boxing on HBO. Because tonight we welcome our brand new expert commentator, a man who needs very little in the way of introduction because he is in many ways one of the biggest figures in the history of boxing. George Foreman, on behalf of Larry Merchant and myself, I can't tell you how excited we are about working with you. You are already a genuine American hero. Why have you decided to take this on?
Look, I got hooked on the cameras. I got hooked on the action. Then after the fight, no cameras. I begged HBO, let me on. I need some action, please.
It's not entirely true. We're paying you also, and we're thrilled to have the opportunity to do it. George, it's going to be great to work with you. Oh, yeah, we'll give you all the food you can eat. Larry, what can George expect to see tonight?
Well, George, the first thing you should know is that HBO doesn't always stand for happy boxing only, as it did in Atlantic City a month ago when you and Evander Holyfield got it on. Very often, like tonight, it stands for hassles and battles and outrages. Going into the last fight, you remember there was an outrageous decision on the part of a referee to take a point away from Hector Camacho for something instigated by Greg Haugen. After the fight, we found out that the only judge who made a clear decision for Haugen was an old pal of his from Alaska. And finally, Haugen failed his drug test. Now, going into this fight, we've already started with some of the outrages. in the early morning hours of today, there was a battle, a hassle, some kind of a fight between a sports writer and Hector Camacho's advisor and manager, in which the advisor and manager wound up with a broken leg. And then, a few hours later, at the weigh-in, Hector Camacho took a little slap at Haugen. So, George, you can see not all fighters are as fully evolved as you are. Sometimes there's real bad blood when the stakes are high.
Boy, I'm finding out quick.
Oh, you're going to have some fun. There are storm clouds circling over this fight because the controversy at the beginning of round 12 in the first fight touched off a 48-hour celebration for Haugen before yet another controversy then ensued.
I'm just mad at myself for putting myself in that position. You know, I've let a lot of people down, let myself down, let my family down, let a lot of my fans down. It's just something that came natural to me. I mean, something I was doing for 15 years, 16 years. Fooled the system for so long, and then I got caught. It's been a painful experience, but it's been a learning experience too, and I'm hoping to put this issue behind me.
Greg Haugen, the man, has learned that life in the real world can be as tough as life in the ring. A two-time world champion, he was an 8-1 underdog against Hector Camacho, an opponent, nothing more. But Haugen pinned Camacho with his first loss, a narrow split decision victory.
114 to 113 for the winner by split decision here at Caesar's Palace. And new champion,
A victory which would quickly go up in smoke. The post-fight drug test, customary in championship bouts, revealed the new champion had smoked marijuana in the weeks before entering the ring with Camacho.
Somehow word leaked out. I want to make sure Greg found out from me or from the commission before he got hit by any press, because he got hammered by the press afterwards.
Everyone's looking for dirt, so I gave him something to find, and now it's just walking the straight and narrow and keeping my nose to the grindstone and doing the things I should have been doing before, being clean. I'm just mad at myself for putting myself in that position.
The Nevada State Athletic Commission hit Greg Haugen with a $25,000 fine, the maximum, and the WBO stripped him of their junior welterweight title. In addition, Greg is now expected to put in 200 hours of community service. He works at the food bank for 3 hours each morning, distributing food for needy families. Mandatory drug counseling helps Greg to deal with the pressures brought on by mass media.
Feeling is frustration, anger, pissed off, just stuff where they take it a little one step too far, and they go towards my children and my family, and it's, and it's something that, I don't feel that my kids should suffer for something stupid that I did, but they have, and it's been tough. I mean, my daughters have taken it very well, I think. Proud of them.
Few of us would question the effect this has had on Greg. Now there's a lingering question for the governing bodies which sanction these bouts. How had Haugen passed previous drug tests?
I never really worried about what I needed to do to clean up. I mean, it was just something that I would stop well enough ahead of time, and the last time I didn't, I guess.
Seems like he accepted that he did it, but we never knew about it. It really surprised me because I had worked with him 4 fights before that, and throughout his career, he went to the same test and never came positive. I was really shocked.
Tonight, Greg Haugen fights for the biggest paycheck of his career. It's an attempt to repeat an accomplishment which was overshadowed by controversy.
What I brought on myself is what I have to deal with and live with. And, I hope to put this whole issue to rest after this fight and go on with the guy that beat Camacho twice, not as the guy that smoked pot and got stripped. The rules are the rules, and you have to play by the rules. I mean, the rules say no drugs, nothing.
Greg Haugen, the boxer, is still learning lessons about life and its rules. Only time will tell if he has listened.
Counseling has helped, but I'm not going to say it's going to cure me by any means. I can't sit here and say that I'm not going to do it again, because I'd be lying. It's something that I'll have to wait and see and face day to day.
And now we bring you back live to the Reno Convention Center, where HBO Sports is getting ready to present in just a few minutes the rematch between Greg Haugen and Hector Macho Camacho for an organization called the World Boxing Organization's Junior Welterweight Championship. George, you spent part of the day with Greg Haugen yesterday. In light of the experience he's had in the past 3 months, how do you think this will affect him and has affected him?
Our kids, they all make mistakes. He's made a mistake. What we do with the kids, we love them and we give them that second chance. He wants that second chance. He's hungry for it. He's going to get it.
All right, and a lot of people see this, of course, as a second chance for Hector Camacho also. Larry, it comes as a surprise to some of us who've always thought of him as a kind of wild child of the sport that Camacho is almost 29 years old. Do you think he's on the downside of his career now?
Jim, when he burst on the scene in the early 80s, he was like a VCR. He was always on fast forward or on fast backward. His critics charged more often on fast backward. But I believe that he was on fast forward when he was born, when he wakes up, when he goes to sleep, when he comes into the ring, when he goes out of the ring. We're talking here about Michael Jackson with 2 gloves and a loincloth. Because of this natural energy, he has been able to put together an 11-year winning streak, despite the fact that he never trained as seriously as most champions did. But that streak came to an end in February when Greg Haugen informed him through his fists and his conditioning that that well of natural energy was beginning to tap out. George, it took you 10 years to find out what was going to happen next. It's taking him 3 months, him and us, to find out if he's got the stuff of a champion, if he's going to get off the floor, if he's going to come back from a defeat.
Big question.
Well, it's obvious for Camacho, this is showtime, which means he's put every little bit of athletic ability, every bit of training into it. He's going to do his best to win.
Indeed, there are 2 schools of thought about what happens here. One is that Hector Camacho, after 5 or 6 years of living on borrowed time, has finally met reality in the person of Greg Haugen. The other is that the loss to Haugen was simply a brief interruption in macho time. The professional boxer has one central obligation: to prepare his body and his mind to fight.
Maybe it wasn't such a great idea going into the fight trying to take it as a tune-up, Maybe I shouldn't take any fight as a tune, but basically that's what it was.
Or at least that's what it was supposed to have been. Camacho, like many other undefeated fighters, finally discovered the pitfall of ignoring his opponent's abilities. At 48 wins and no losses, heavyweight champion Larry Holmes was 2 victories shy of breaking Rocky Marciano's record. Then he fought light heavyweight Michael Spinks.
Left hand a little short, but the second one scored. There's a right hand. Spinks, the aggressor.
And new IBF heavyweight champion of the world, Michael Spinks.
On talent alone, welterweight champion Donald Curry was 25-0. Then he showed up out of shape to fight Lloyd Hunnigan.
And the reason is, as Gillis said, he's not using the jab. Blood now flowing. Another right hand. Another right hand hurt.
And new undisputed welterweight champion of the world, Lloyd Hunnigan.
Considered invincible, heavyweight champion Mike Tyson was 33-0 until the unprepared fighter met journeyman James Buster Douglas.
Oh, the uppercut.
What an uppercut by Douglas, and down goes Tyson.
The new heavyweight champion of the world, Buster Douglas.
Which brings us to February 23, 1991, the day Hector Camacho joined this unique fraternity. And Haugen goes down from a solid right-hand counter. He was overweight and overconfident, but it appeared Camacho would emerge victorious. But then Haugen rebounded, and the major upset was evolving. Then came the pivotal 12th round and one of boxing's strangest calls.
Padilla takes a point away from Camacho in what could be a monumental turn of events.
Even with the referee taking a point away, still, the worst it could have been is a draw. The worst, a draw. So, you know, this is the kind of things that, you know, you don't expect, but we do expect once it happens, you know. Now I know that I just gotta, no more workouts, no more tune-ups, you know. Just gotta go to seek and destroy.
Camacho took the loss in stride, a surprise to those closest to him. They wait to see the long-term ramifications.
I thought that he would go away, relax a while, and then it would set in that he actually experienced a defeat, which he had never done before. And I thought he might go one of two ways. Suicide was a factor, and I'm serious. And the second thing is that I thought maybe this would make him more determined to come back and prove himself.
If ever there were a time for Hector Camacho to prove himself, this is it. By all indications, he's serious. Training venues were switched to the tranquil community of Atlantic Beach, North Carolina. For the first time, Hector is utilizing cardiovascular and weight conditioning. As he prepares himself for the rematch, Camacho is hoping that his first setback was a blessing in disguise.
I need that self-esteem, that self-support from the public, which I feel I'm going to get now, and I have now. And I feel great, you know. I mean, I'm not depressed. I wasn't depressed, you know. After all, a loss can't compare to $1 million.
But when the $1 million evaporate, the loss will remain. A miscalculation that could haunt this most irreverent fighter for some time. Tonight we'll see if this was a lesson learned or a lesson wasted.
And there he comes to the sounds of a song called I Take It to the Extreme. Hector Camacho, two-time world champion, prepares to enter the ring.
If you're wondering why all those feathers, Hector does live on an Indian reservation in Florida. He really looks depressed from that defeat, Jim.
Other fighters wear robes. Hector wears a boa.
He's a remarkable character. Despite his promise that he was going to rest in his dressing room this time and not use himself up, he hasn't been off his feet for over an hour.
Well, it's a legitimate concern of his managers and trainers who believe that he dissipates a lot of energy in the locker room before a fight. I think it's something to worry about, George.
The thing about it, he's being himself, none other than the great one.
And himself has, by HBO calculations, won 38 out of 39 official fights. Most sources give him credit for 39 wins, but our research determines that one of those victories was in an exhibition bout in which the two fighters wore headgear. So we call him 38-1. It has been a wild weekend here.
Here, Jim, was the press conference on Thursday in which Patrick Flannery, Camacho's manager, got into a battle with Mike Marley of the New York Post, who had criticized him after the last fight. And here you see Flannery today after the fight with Marley early this morning. And here he is live from ringside in his wheelchair.
And we should point out that Marley, for his part, says that he did not hit Patrick Flannery, that it was the other way around. So there'll be a lot of dispute about this.
Flannery, incidentally, is Hector Camacho's former English teacher.
And there's Mike Marley. Marley has some stitches in his mouth. I saw them at close range just a little bit earlier, and he's got a bad bruise, as you can see, on his forehead above his eye. So the tough man contest between Marley and Flannery is over, and here comes the man who used to win tough man contests in bars up in Anchorage, Alaska.
And he's coming out to the strains of no more Mr. Nice Guy, George.
He's all business. He's a throwback to the old boxers, the way they used to be. Take two to get in one.
George, he reminds me of a 4-year-old kid you can't get away from. He's instigating all kinds of stuff. He's tried to get under Camacho's skin, and he's been successful in February and already today.
He's built like one of those kids when I was going to school that you just didn't pick on. When you want to pick a fight, forget him. Camacho is built like one of those guys you pick on and wish you hadn't.
Incidentally, Camacho got fined $500 for an incident you'll see in a moment. But here is Greg Haugen, who will be making over $1 million in this fight, something he never thought he would ever see.
Yeah, who would have thunk it? Back in February, when he was nothing more than an opponent for Camacho, that he could be making $1.2 million tonight. Two losses to Vinny Pazienza, a near whitewash loss to Pernell Whitaker. Those the 3 losses on Haugen's record. He's won 28 times with 13 KOs. And you heard the crowd support for Haugen in Las Vegas during the first fight. That will once again be the case here tonight. Indeed, he has many relatives who've made the trip down from the state of Washington. We take a look at the tail of the tape, and you see that Camacho weighed in at 138.5, and this time Larry had apparently no trouble making weight.
This is the lowest he's been in 5 or 6 years, and perhaps a little too low. Is he overtrained or is he perfectly trained? Let's take a look at the weigh-in earlier today when we had an incident that cost Camacho $500. Here you see him on the scale. There you see Haugen alongside. Haugen is, as I said, a little instigator. He's trying to get under his skin, and he succeeds once again. There you see Haugen after he steps on the scale. And there as he mouths off at Camacho. Camacho hits him with a little left to the forehead.
And true to form, he moves out of the way.
Great. If he would have known that was only going to cost him $500, he might have landed a few more. But that punch will not count in this punch stat from the last fight. As you can see, the numbers of punches that Haugen and Camacho threw. Camacho threw a few more, mostly jabs, a very low percentage of connect for both fighters. Both of them used jabs essentially as probing and parrying weapons. Camacho was very ineffective with his jab in the first fight. Harold Letterman, are there any rules that can contain these guys?
Okay, Larry, the rules tonight will be those of the World Boxing Organization. 3 judges will score the fight on a 10-point must system. There will be no standing 8 count. You can only be saved by the bell in the last round only, and the 3 knockdown rule is in effect. And one very pertinent WBO rule brought out by Alberto Waliman, the WBO chairman of the board at yesterday's rule meeting, is that the fighters are only required to touch gloves 1 time, and that will be after the referee's instructions before the fight begins. Jim will see what happens.
All right, Harold, good idea not to touch gloves in the 12th. Right now, let's go up to our ring announcer, Michael Buffer, for the pre-fight introduction.
Ladies and gentlemen, main event. And the undisputed king of beer, Budweiser, in association with the Reno Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority, present the rematch. This fight is sanctioned by the World Boxing Organization. President Ramon Peña Acevedo, supervisor at ringside, former light heavyweight champion of the world, Jose Torres, and the Nevada State Athletic Commission, Chairman Dr. James Nave, Commissioners Luther Matt, Nat Carasali, Bruce Lane, and Dr. Elias Ghanem. The Executive Director is Chuck Minker. Our 3 physicians at ringside are Dr. James McLennan, Dr. John Whitman, and Dr. Flip Homansky. Timekeeper Steve Menzel. Counting for the knockdown seconds, John Rogers. The 3 judges assigned at ringside for this bout, scoring it on a 10-point must system, are Doug Tucker, Bert Clements, and Dave Moretti. And in the ring at this time, the referee assigned to this bout, working for the 15th time in a world title event from Tucson, Arizona, is Bobby Ferreira. And now, ladies and gentlemen, from the Reno Sparks Convention Center here in the biggest little city in the world, Reno, Nevada, let's get to rumble! 12 rounds of boxing for the vacant WBO Junior Welterweight Championship of the World. Introducing first, fighting out of the red corner, wearing the white trunks with purple trim. He weighs an even 139 pounds, fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada. His professional record, 28 victories with 13 KOs, 3 defeats, and 1 draw. Ladies and gentlemen, a 3-time world champion, Greg Haugen! And his opponent, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing the brown colors with fringe and weighing in at 138.5 pounds. Originally from Spanish Harlem, but now fighting out of the Osage Indian Reservation in Florida. His professional record is 38-1, 16 KOs. He's also a former 3-time world champion. Introducing El Hombre Macho, Hector Camacho.
I know you both understand them. I expect you to follow them. Good luck to both of you. Take hands. Go ahead and wait for the bell.
The question here, Jim, is will Camacho try to take Haugen and the crowd out of the fight in the very first round, or will he try to feel him out?
Weak slap of the glove by Camacho at that ceremony. He was not even looking at Haugen. Remember that Camacho was listless coming into the first fight. Not himself, has promised something entirely different tonight. Haugen has said that he will pressure Camacho from the opening bell, something he said he'd do in Las Vegas, but didn't do.
Already, George, it seems Camacho is more flat-footed than we're used to seeing him.
This time he's trying to establish, I'm a puncher too, just not a mover.
Haugen stepped in with a left hook to the body. It was very effective for him in the first fight.
He was cut off in the same fashion he did in the first fight.
And the straight right hand lead, George, that was the other big weapon in the first bout. Following in the jab. In the last fight, he was often inclined to step back, and now Camacho pins Haugen against the rope and gets off 2 or 3.
He's decided, hey, I'm not going to let you beat bullies. I'm going to stand up and beat a real macho man.
This is a different Hector Camacho. Appears much more willing to stand and fight.
There's a little 13-year-old by the name of Hector Jr. in New York. And you're talking about pro Hector Camacho, he's for him. So he's got to do some good things tonight for his sake.
Moving forward behind the jab, George. Hector didn't do that in the first fight.
He's the aggressor. He's old enough now because of a bigger body to do that kind of thing. Big legs, big shoulders. Now Hector lands left to the chest. Chest punches are not good for bodies for guys to take.
We saw Greg Haugen slip to his knees. It was by no means a knockdown.
Now, a right hand to the chest by Haugen. That's a dangerous shot for Camacho because he depends on his legs.
How can you take away the legs by punching to the chest, George?
You learn an effective shot to the chest is like a vampire sucking your blood from you. And a fighter doesn't realize he doesn't have muscles there, so he lets you get away with it. Good jab to the body.
The bell sounds to end round 1. A much more aggressive showing this time around by Macho Camacho.
I can't recall ever seeing Camacho in a round where he stood flat-footed for 3 minutes.
Our interpreter in Hector Camacho's corner is Ruben Castillo.
You got to be smart. Be much smarter. Give me the bucket.
Así como está, Carlos. Me gusta hacerlo con loco, que le ponga la madre en la saca de la paz. Así como está todo, pero me lo prendo, ya me... He'll pay! He'll pay!
One thing Camacho's style in the first round will do, it may help him in close rounds. Whereas before, he was always moving away and giving the impression that Haugen was the aggressor, and you're going to lose more rounds, close rounds that way, than if you're the aggressor.
Camacho stepping in with a straight left hand is something he didn't do the first round. Like he wants to try to get a knockout.
When we saw those punch back numbers for round one, George, you saw the large number of punches for Camacho without landing. He often throws the jab at nothing but air.
This time he's actually following that left jab in, right jab in with a straight left. I mean, and it's effective.
Referee Bobby Ferraro warns Camacho for holding behind the head while hitting.
And Haugen is a tough kid. I mean, he didn't expect this though.
Fewer than 30 punches in round one, Haugen has been nowhere near as busy as he claimed he would be.
He's being surprised by this aggressive style of the Camacho man. He's standing his ground. He's not playing with the ropes at all. He's trying to fight him in the middle of the ring, which is odd. But he's been successful with that counter uppercut, left uppercut. Haugen is so dangerous, so he's not going to be discouraged.
Question that based on what they said they'd do coming in, it is Camacho who is executing his plan. Haugen said he wanted to beat in Camacho's chest. He hasn't been able to do that.
Camacho is fighting like a big man. Though he came in lighter, he's fighting like, I'm the bigger man, I'm the most experienced.
A lot of people thought they'd never see it. A lot of people thought they'd never see it, George.
But Haugen is not intimidated.
With the right hand.
Camacho is trying to counter with one big shot, which is odd for him. Normally it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And none of the heavy shots have been to the body, so it won't affect Haugen later on in the fight.
Now the crowd tries to pick Greg Haugen up. You hear the chant, Haugen, Haugen, Haugen.
Camacho is using the middle of the ring.
Following the jab in with the left coming behind it. There's the piston-like Camacho combination.
Now he's getting closer and closer to the rope. This may change things a little bit.
Tirando muy bien el López, pero abierto. Métaselo por el centro.
Stay in the middle of the ring. Stay in the middle.
Por el centro. Fine, Hector, no need to hold, okay? Okay? Cool, easy, yeah. Perfecto. No me pares de eso, this is normal. This is mejor.
Start, picking it up just a little more.
Yeah.
Start picking it up.
You're doing fine. You're doing good. You're doing good. You're doing good, Greg.
Picking up put up those punches now.
Put that right hand to his belly with Venus. Put the jab it to his belly. To his belly.
I didn't hear Haugen's corner giving him any answers to what Camacho is doing here, he's going to have to figure it out himself.
He's totally by surprise. This is not the Camacho he's expected to use the middle of the ring like that.
Well, Haugen expected that he would be the man to set the pace and dictate the tempo of the fight. It's been exactly the opposite way around.
When a guy uses the middle of the ring, you've got to use your jab in combination.
But Greg needs to box.
And he's not a boxer. He wants to slug it out. And to do that, the other guy has to back up and give him room.
And Camacho is not backing up, as you see. Continuing to dominate the exchanges, starting and finishing most of them.
The thing about that kind of style is it exhausts you. It takes a lot of water in your body before and after a boxing match.
Good point, because Camacho began to run out of gas as early as the 6th round in the first matchup 3 months ago.
It's going to be hard to hold that. You may have to rest for a few rounds and then come back later on.
He claims he's in real tip-top condition for the first time in his life.
He's in good shape just to be able to do what he's just done in the first couple of rounds. Boy, but he sees red in the guy's face. He's going to try and get a cut.
It looks like there's a little puffiness under the left eye of Greg Haugen.
And he's backing up, which is what he doesn't want to do. Camacho is in good shape. And Haugen hasn't landed a good...
That's more than puffiness. It's more than puffiness, George. You can see that there's a little cut emerging under the left eye of Haugen.
Camacho's going to just stand his ground and work on it now.
We'll try to pick away with the jab.
Haugen should rush him, I would feel, to take away something that's very new to Camacho to stand your ground. But Camacho seems to be in good shape. I guess the weightlifting program. Look at the veins in his arm. Haugen will not be intimidated by anything. This is a great fighter from the past.
But takes punishment in return.
If he backs up at all, Camacho is just going to get crushed.
Solid left hand from Camacho. Haugen momentarily stunned. Almost every time you see a fighter smile like that, George, it's
he's hurt.
They've been hurt. That's right. Haugen trying to turn things around with the right hand.
Camacho is not experienced in going forward, so there'll be a lot of lunges on his part trying to be an aggressor. But if Haugen decided to let him use the middle of the ring, he's going to be in trouble. It would be best for him to go wild.
Go wild, start to brawl and try to bull him into the ring.
You cannot outbox this guy. Just go wild. Camacho is muscular. He's got veins all in his arms. He's been lifting weight.
Take a look at the combination that Camacho landed in that round. He's fighting with more authority and confidence because he knows he's in condition. He's not trying to finesse his way through this because he feels he can sustain this for 12 rounds. It's Haugen's job to convince him that he can't.
Greg Haugen has begun to pick up the pace. He threw 47 punches in round 3, but it was still a round dominated by Hector Camacho. We counted him with 59 attempted punches, landing almost half of them. You heard Haugen tell his corner that he believes that the cut under his left eye is the product of a headbutt. Doesn't matter now. It's a perfect target for Camacho. Good left hand for Haugen. He follows it in to try to go to the body.
Haugen has got a lot of heart. Landed some important body blows that round.
Right hand by Haugen lands flush on the face. Again, the left to the body. Camacho standing his ground, though.
Haugen is starting to box. Use this jab a bit more over Camacho's right hand. I think it's a little too late for that. He should pile up some more points and win a few rounds before he starts that. Great body punch.
with the jab and following with the left. Camacho going after that cut under the left eye of Greg Haugen.
Haugen just landed a very important body shot there.
There's a body shot from Camacho coming up and under with the right hand. Another punch he didn't throw much in the first fight.
I don't think that was really intended to be a body shot. He just landed. But now you see a little bit more bump in the ropes by Camacho because of that last body shot. That shot hurt.
But now for the first time in the bout, George, Greg is beginning to back Hector up a little bit.
It's all because of that straight right hand he threw to Camacho's body. It takes a minute to recover from such a punch.
Still the blazing hand speed for Camacho. In those instances when he holds his ground. Right hand to the face by Haugen. Left hand inside by Camacho. Haugen stunned again.
Camacho is determined to stay away from the rope.
Good idea.
Once Haugen is able to make him touch that rope, his spirit couldn't be broken. That's what he does not intend to do, is touch the rope the first time. Now, you're going to see a different fight. He did touch the rope.
Round 4, the most competitive in the fight so far. Haugen set the tempo early with a couple of hard punches.
Camacho's got a lot of power. A lot of people don't give him credit for it, but he has power.
Well, how can you say that, George? He's only had one knockout in his last dozen or so fights.
He's just not interested in finishing anybody else out. Because to be a finisher, you take a chance. You may get hurt yourself. Power sometimes without the instincts of a finisher. Maybe he was hurt early in his career. Haugen is coming on now.
Too early to say that Haugen is turning things around, but this has been a much better showing. He's still taking a lot of punishment, though.
That was Haugen's best round. But Camacho did very little backing up, even when he took a couple of clean punches. The fight after 4 rounds.
Larry, 3 rounds to 1, 39-37 favor Hector Camacho. In rounds 1, 2, and 3, Greg Haugen walked in and got nailed by quick combinations in each of the first 3 rounds. But in round 4, Haugen moved in and started landing good, solid right hands to the body to win the 4th round. But I'm wondering how bad the cut is over Haugen's left eye and whether it's going to be a major factor in the next few rounds.
Haugen is looking over to George and indicating that from now on he's going to be taking over the fight.
And between rounds, the men in Camacho's corner told him to use the uppercut more. They said when Haugen comes at you and misses, counter with the uppercut. Come up and under.
If Haugen can make Camacho's back touch that rope just 2 or 3 times, he can change the whole face of this boxer.
Isn't happening yet. Solid left hand by Camacho. Backs Haugen up.
Now he's stepping right into Camacho's range and not throwing a punch. Once you step into his range, you got to do something or get out of it.
Heard the referee telling Haugen it was a little low. No point deducted yet.
Now Camacho is taking a little break, trying to assess his damage.
Left hand to the chest of Haugen. You see any early signs of tiring, George?
Haugen just landed a great effective body shot again. It was right in the mid-chest there. Tell you, once his body starts hitting that rope a few times, Camacho's back hit it a few times, the fight is going to change. But right now, just been happening. Only twice so far I've counted.
Haugen just missed with a right-hand lead that should have done damage. Crowd tries to pick up the Washington State native one more time.
3rd time Camacho's been on that, had his back against the rope. Things are going to change.
There came the uppercut. Didn't have much on it. George. Haugen coming forward, but not busy enough.
You get into Camacho's range, you've got to throw some punches, otherwise you're going to get hit yourself.
Loose piece of tape on Hector Camacho's glove. The chance for a little rest for both fighters.
And this one here.
Haugen stands right above us and waves his arms to try to excite the crowd. And half the arena stands up.
So far, Haugen has had a greater impression on the crowd than he has on Camacho. He better start having more of an impression on Camacho, because if he lets him go like this, Camacho will just stand there all night.
Another slip.
Believe me, it's a slip, but it's not the effect of a slip. Those punches got a lot to do with that.
Solid left to the chest by Camacho. And you can see the effect of the little breather for Hector. He's suddenly much more energetic.
Never let a boxer stay in the middle of the ring. You keep him toward the rope where he's trying to get away all the time. Haugen just was not prepared for the style.
Combine the aggressive style with Camacho's edge and hand speed, and so far, you've got big dividends for Hector.
I think we're all surprised.
Muy bien, muy bien.
You're looking real good, real good. That's what he needed.
Muévelo.
You got to move him. Move him. Keep him away from you. He doesn't know how to... Use your intelligence. A lot of intelligence. You're getting a look at just how many punches were thrown. As you can see here, Camacho is throwing and Haugen are throwing roughly the same amount of punches, but Camacho is throwing more harder punches in this fight than he did in the first fight.
Another important body shot by Haugen.
Come on.
Okay. Throughout the first bout, Hector Camacho would throw the jab and step back. Tonight, over and over, George, he's been coming in behind you.
He's staying within that middle of the ring, and he's taking over. It's one thing we don't let a boxer do. Haugen, he's landing good body shots, but he needs points at this point. He needs to be getting some points in there.
Good left-hand counter uppercut by Camacho. Right jab lands. There's a lot of artistry in this.
You'll notice this fight, there are a lot of empty jabs as in the first fight. Camacho is keeping him within his range.
Another solid left-hand uppercut inside by Camacho. Haugen had promised us he would go to the body over and over and over. He said he was going to tenderize Camacho's ribs. Hasn't been able to do that, George.
He's got him going back into the ropes now. If he can keep that going for the next few rounds, he can pick up a lot of points with the judges, and of course, potentially a knockout. Going to the body, which is surprising.
Both fighters landed solid body punches in that exchange. Now Camacho finishes off an exchange. Superior hand speed again.
Haugen is really getting in his left jab occasionally now, which he wasn't able to do in the first couple of rounds.
Well, he stepped up closer.
When he gets into his range, he's got to land a punch. When he stands there, Camacho goes out.
Look at Camacho move in behind the jab. This is a whole different fighter than the one who took a defeat that he thought was unjustified down in Las Vegas. Now Haugen's able to get him to the ropes. Digging to the body twice.
Evidently, Haugen's corner has told him, listen, you got to get this guy up against the rope. You got to get him out the middle of the ring, break his confidence level. And occasionally he's doing it, but not enough. Sometimes you just got to break the rules and just walk right on it. Forget about the left foot forward and the right foot behind it. Just walk straight on in.
Do you think the fear of having that cut above his eye opened up is holding Haugen back from forcing Camacho into the rope?
Maybe, but he's got a great corner man, a great cut man. I haven't seen much blood.
Make him mad. Make him mad. You got to move him more. He's tired. He's very tired. He is very, very tired.
He'll take like 3 shots, then he'll move back. Move in with him. Okay? And when you get inside, you've got to, boom, 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 boom. All right?
You must punch inside. The man's weaker than you. You're in condition. This man's in condition.
There's Camacho standing there watching, throwing a left right over, a tentative right by Haugen. I noticed between rounds that Camacho is breathing a little more heavily than we're used to seeing him, which shows that this kind of fight, where you're active for more minutes of a round, is really harder on the conditioning than a fight where you're constantly dancing and moving. He has never experienced that before, George.
And, of course, we are at high altitude here in Reno. Haugen's been here 3.5 weeks, much longer than Camacho. He believes that could give him an advantage in the later rounds.
Camacho's been smart, though. He hasn't moved that much. So he's conserved a lot of energy.
Hector has been here in Reno at this altitude for 9 days, compared to the 3.5 weeks for Haugen. Greg believes that should be a big advantage for him. But the men in Camacho's corner were telling him that Haugen's completely shot.
That may be, but Camacho may better stay off the rope, off those ropes. He's going to give Haugen a lot of confidence. Haugen can take a good shot and deliver 2 more.
I think Camacho's too smart and too careful to believe that Haugen's completely shot at this point of the fight. We're only halfway through.
Fighters who are accustomed to going 12 rounds, they have breathing spells where they don't do much, sit around and pace themselves, and they come back a little later. Camacho is doing as much right now.
That was an interesting exchange on the ropes there, George. Normally we could expect Camacho to hold on there, wait for them to get split up, but he fought his way off the ropes with a good body combination.
Because his corners told him to stay off those ropes evidently during training. So he's getting on the rope and he's thinking about, they're going to talk about me if I don't do something. So he's trying to really show them that, hey, I'm okay. His corner. Landed a good straight left hand that time, Camacho there.
Yeah, and there are people in the crowd who are now rooting openly for Hector. He's putting on a good show.
Haugen is hurt on his right side, too.
What do you mean by that?
Camacho's hit him right up below the right elbow, and it's hurt. Believe me, it's hurt.
Now Haugen's starting to land straight right hands, though. He's nailed a couple of them in the last 30 seconds.
Right side is hurt. That may change a little bit, too. You can only know when Camacho fakes him. If he covers up and tries to protect that side, you know for sure it's hurt.
What are you seeing here, George, that tells you that his right side is hurting?
I saw him flinch after one punch for surgery. This is when the art of feigning comes in. Find out where a guy is protecting, what he's protecting, then you know for sure Camacho isn't doing that right now.
Well, you know, Haugen told us he'd been bothered for 3.5 years by a rotator cuff injury to his right shoulder.
Oh, that could be the whole shoulder and right side acting up on him there.
Good boy.
Don't stand up for nothing. You got all the conditions in the world. Moving. He is super tired. He's fat at 39 pounds, 139 pounds.
Picking at him away, you know, but you got to start picking up your punches now. Let's throw 3, 4, 5 punches. All right, not just 1, 2. Let's start picking it up a little bit now. Let's pressure the hell out of him. Okay?
Yeah, your most punches there. When he stepped
now here you see where Camacho went to the ropes. Haugen tried to do something, and Camacho, watch, just fought his way out there into the middle of the ring. You know, Camacho's going to a place he's never been before. He's never fought a fight like this that I certainly can recall. It takes a lot of energy, and let's see if he can sustain that through the rest of the fight.
Solid left hand from Camacho to begin proceedings in the 8th round.
Not only so, but he came out fainting to see. Check out what's going on. That's a surprise. He's a well-experienced fighter, Hector Camacho is.
Maybe he's seen the same thing we've seen about Haugen's right side, and he lands another left right on the button.
Haugen seems to come in, does the right things, but he gets back out afterwards. Once you come in, you got to stay there until the bell rings. If Haugen can just get him there, stay there. Don't stop punching. Threw a good right hand to the chest again. Haugen did.
Right hand by Camacho. You know, there are two things happening here, George. Well, there's a combination. But for a minute, it looked as though while Camacho was becoming more accurate and landing more consistently with harder punches, he was also beginning to satisfy himself with one punch at a time and then stepping away.
Right. Haugen is doing the right things. He just steps out after he lands 2 or 3 shots. He just gets out and he gets back again.
2 hard punches to the rib cage by Haugen before referee Bobby Ferraro was able to break him up. Round 8, and now's the time when Haugen promises that he would step up the tempo.
He has.
Haugen with a hard right hand just below the chin.
Haugen is going for broke now. He realizes he's behind on points. He's going to try for a knockout.
In 40 fights, Hector Camacho has never been knocked out.
Camacho is back in charge with his right jab now.
Good left hand by Camacho, but one punch at a time, and he's walking away, George.
He's trying to show his corner here. I know you told me to stay off the rope. He hit them, remember? A fighter has a hard time convincing his corner and himself that he's doing okay. Haugen at this point should just get close and stay close. He backs away himself.
Well, he's going to have to take some punishment to do it.
Well, they say a leopard can't change its spots.
Usted está perfecto.
Hector Camacho certainly looks like some other kind of beast than the one we normally see in the ring.
Después de que te mueves,
after you move,
Mike, esa izquierda está perfecta.
throw your left. It's perfect. Your left is perfect.
Okay. Esa izquierda cuando te jalas con tu mano derecha de él, la suelta está perfecta.
Harold, we've been through 8 rounds. How do you see it now?
Larry, 78 to 74, 6 rounds to 2, Hector Camacho. I mean, every time Greg Haugen comes in, Hector Camacho flips the right jab and throws that solid straight left hand and nails him. And I think Camacho's really winning it with his hand speed. But certainly he doesn't have the great legs that he did when he was a younger fighter, and he used to use the entire ring and turn his opponents constantly.
4 rounds to go, an uphill fight, it appears, for Greg Haugen.
We've been commenting all night about the difference in this fight from the first fight. And it's Camacho who's made the difference by standing his ground as he is right here.
Haugen smiles and shakes his head again. We know what that means.
The thing about Camacho, he's older now. When you're young, you waste a lot of energy. And you find out as you get older, hey, I can hit hard. Why do I have to run all the time? Make someone else run.
You think it's too late for him to learn to become a finisher?
Oh, no, he's going not a finisher, but he's going to become more of an aggressor. He will never become a finisher because of his instincts to be fast. You can't have it all. Sugar Ray Robinson in his last few years started to stand his ground and turned out to be a great puncher.
But finishing is an instinct rather than a learned art.
You just can't get that, but he can make guys back out, which he's doing now with a little.
The prescription from Camacho's corner was combinations and move to the side. Sometimes it's just one punch and move to the side, but he's landing.
He's pretty much the slugger almost.
Now here's a chance for Haugen, but Camacho is able to pull his way off the rope.
Oh, he's been told strictly to stay away from those corners. And every time he does, he look over to his corner and try to convince him, I'm going to be good.
Haugen chases Camacho into a corner with the left to the body.
Drops his hands and dares him to take a shot, too. Oh.
Taking a lot of punishment for the trouble of leaning in.
And he knows that he's the stronger guy in the long run as far as the will power is concerned. But he's back in the middle of the ring now. That's what Camacho seems to have the great advantage in the middle of the ring.
Hasn't been able to put Camacho in jail along the rope. Got to get the man into jail and then handcuff.
Dropping his hand there and daring Camacho. And Camacho, to the farm, is not going to take any chances. When a man's hands are low, you just can't see them, and you don't rush in.
So he's dropping his hands to ask Camacho to jab.
And Camacho is saying, I can't see your hand. I'm not coming in there. But when he picks them up, watch Camacho takes care of his work. So get a little more aggressive. Great fight.
Haugen might have stolen that round with his aggression, but he knows now that he has to do something desperate and dramatic to turn it around.
Just like that one. You understand? 3 rounds, just like that one. Only more shots thrown. Okay, you know you can do it. You know you're in shape. This was too damn hard. You're getting stronger.
How do you use it? Let it go.
Yeah.
Drive with those legs.
Drive through it. Drive through that shot. Okay? Yeah. Watch for that right hand. That's that little...
Here's a comparison of the two fights and the two fighters. And here you can see how Camacho is landing a much higher percent of his shots and throwing many more harder shots than he did in his first fight. The numbers confirm what our eyes tell us.
Round 10, 3 rounds to go. You heard Haugen's corner asking for 3 more rounds just like the last one.
Haugen's corner has done a great job with that cut. We haven't seen any blood in a lot of rounds.
The man who's listed as the cut man is Keith Clevin, who's also his aerobic trainer. I agree with you, George. He's done a sensational job.
He's a champion with a cut man because that was a nasty cut. He just eliminated as being a factor in the fight. Not even much swelling is there.
Crowd gets excited about a leaping left.
It embarrasses you more to get hit with those shots than it does hurt, especially when you're known to get out of the well shot.
Yeah, there was more flying sweat than impact on that one.
Come on. Haugen is a bit behind on points, if you ask me. He should be in there, taking the fight to him until the last bell. But he's standing around looking for a knockout, which would cause the other guy to counter with more shots. Camacho.
Now, between rounds, for the first time, the men in Camacho's corner acknowledged that he was getting tired. But they labored to convince Camacho that Haugen was even tireder than he was. So he didn't have to change anything. He could keep being the aggressor.
I can believe he's tired, but he's coming forward, which is what you do in your road work. You run forward. So you can go forward a lot better than you can go backwards without having any effect on you.
Camacho's always amazing with his eye contact with people at ringside during the fight. He stole a glance at you, George, as he moved away from
He continuously does so. I think he wanted me to continuously tell Hector Jr. that he's okay.
Now Haugen is able to get Camacho against the rope.
And he's landing good, important body shots, but it's a little too late. He's got to go for it all now. Go for the head.
This is what Haugen needs. This is the fight he needs to fight.
Now Camacho is holding on a little bit. He found his back to the rope. A little too much.
Crowd gets excited as Haugen begins to execute what his corner wanted him to do. See if he can make it pay off.
Going with the straight right hand, which he's more effective with, but too left, not enough of it. Camacho is an excellent body puncher. I didn't know he had that in him.
Good hard right hand by Haugen to the body, but he took 5 or 6 in return. Camacho waves his arms and walks around.
Movidito como este round, papá, y siguen tirando las dos manos.
Keep throwing your 2 hands. Keep throwing both hands.
Así, macho.
Just like that. Move a lot. Just keep moving. And keep throwing your hands.
No le dejes que te toque nada, ni un guante. Usted es más inteligente que ahogado.
You're much more intelligent.
Right back in. Right back in with the right hand. Okay, get it going. Get it moving now. Come on. You got 6 minutes. 6 minutes. Let's throw some punches in there. Slide off those elbows. Let's go. Up and go your life. This is what we're going to give you. Fastest bit of your life. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
At the very least, Haugen has to land some damaging punches, perhaps win a round by 2 points in order to make it the kind of close decision that the first fight was.
I think it's a little too late for Haugen, unless he get a knockout, and he's capable of getting this knockout, so he's a good puncher.
Well, no fight is ever over. You remember what James Toney did to Michael Nunn a week ago when Nunn was well ahead on points. But we haven't seen Camacho in that kind of trouble yet, and he still has the hand speed to counter off the rope.
Still has the speed, but he didn't even use it the first couple of rounds, just to establish his strength. Haugen is still capable of getting a knockout at any time. Come on.
Greg Haugen told us he practiced throwing upwards of 200 punches in a round. In
good right hand by Haugen.
Yeah, it was a good right hand, George. He's only thrown 50 punches around here tonight.
Another good right hand by Haugen, along with
and a
Camacho shot.
Haugen starting to do some damage.
And Camacho decides to hold on for a while because he's hurt.
Haugen talking to him through the mouthpiece. Trying to get under Hector's skin. He wants him to keep coming at it.
He's hurt. Hector Camacho is hurt. He's going to hold as often as he can. Each time you hold, the clock keeps ticking.
Best round of the fight so far for Greg Haugen.
Haugen's right side is hurt, no doubt about it. The clock is ticking while Camacho holds on for decision, he thinks. He cannot play Haugen cheap. Anytime he can knock him out. Camacho is hurt.
What do you mean by Camacho is hurt, George?
He's in
still
trouble.
fighting.
He's been hurt by a couple of shots. He's so instinctive, so slick that he knows what to do. This is the first time in the fight that he's actually went out and held on. And when you see a fighter doing that, just hey, I've won this fight. I'm not going to take any chances. And he's right at doing that. Every chance he gets, he's going to hold until he can get back to his corner to recover.
Just like that. That was another hard right hand to the body by Haugen.
And then the clock keeps ticking. And the clock.
Here's an old Hector Camacho habit that we hadn't seen at any other time in the fight. So now he's reverting to the habit that got him through the 5 or 6 years after the Rosario fight.
He's been hurt. Don't think he's tired at all. He's in excellent condition to be able to hold up under that.
But he landed a solid right-hand counter in there. Those last two combinations have been effective for Camacho.
Great round.
1 point. 2 seconds. 1 point. 1 point. 1 point.
Well, it's becoming a tradition, isn't it? The 1 point deduction from Hector Camacho late in the fight.
Once again, the instigator, Haugen, has somehow goaded Camacho into doing something that cost him a point. You could see him mouthing there. And Camacho takes a shot after the bell, and the referee has taken a point away from Camacho. And the way this fight is going, once again, that can be a vital point.
Throw your head with your punch. Keep your head in here, boom. You know, don't throw it down, see? Or he can throw that uppercut on you. 3 minutes, guys, 3 minutes. What's the goal?
Harold, how do you have it now?
Larry, 105, 103, including the point that referee Bobby Ferrara took away. 6-4, 1 even. Hector Camacho. I think that he is 2 points ahead because of his hand speed. I think that Greg Haugen does need a knockout to pull this fight out, although Greg Haugen has closed the gap somewhat.
And you saw Camacho's corner delaying the start of the 12th round. Haugen went nuts in the center of the ring. And Camacho has suddenly some energy back.
He's got a smooth corner. They take this glove all over again. They give him a little more extra rest. And
You
he
think
can't
of
hurt
Angelo
anything.
Dundee and some of the great tricks of fights in the past.
Great corner.
Camacho now is acting the way he should have in the first fight in the last round. He's trying to win the last round. He doesn't want this to be any closer than it has to be.
The corner trying to use Bobby Ferrara's deduction of a point to motivate Camacho. They said, look, the referee's against you again. You better go get him now. And Hector is responding.
And he's still holding. When he's not doing anything, he's going to hold. Haugen
lands a solid right, and Hector wraps him up. Yeah, you see him shake his head there.
He's hurt. Two great fighters.
We've got 2 minutes of drama left. Crowd comes to its feet. And here comes Haugen.
Camacho knows that he's won this boxing match. Now he's got to hold on, cruise on into the final second. And like a true champion, he can't resist throwing a punch.
Well, he's won the boxing match, but the fight is yet to be decided.
Boy, I'd like to see number 3. Haugen is still capable of getting a knockout.
Now both fighters are sucking wind. Haugen's mouthpiece drops out of his mouth. Bobby Ferrara hasn't picked it up. It's lying there in the middle of the ring. Haugen fighting without the mouthpiece now.
Let him go. Let him go.
Right hand and the left by Haugen. Camacho staggers to the rope. Bobby Ferrara finally picks up the mouthpiece.
It's toe-to-toe now. The battle of the fittest. Haugen is the hero. Camacho, the matador.
Haugen yelling at Camacho.
He better be careful. Camacho can still sting him.
exhausted.
There are some things I never thought I would expect to see, and one of them is Hector Camacho in anything approaching a brawl, even for a few rounds. I thought he won a narrow decision on the lead he built up early in the fight, but it could be a very close decision.
I've got Haugen winning the last 4 rounds of the fight, one of them a 2-point round. Something unusual could yet happen again. Harold?
I think the fight is very, very close once again. I agree with you. I've got it 114, 113, Hector Camacho, 6-5, 1 even in rounds. I think it's one of these fights that I said in the first fight, it could go either way. Somehow or another, at crunch time, Greg Haugen seems to come forward. He does great in rounds 9, 10, 11, and 12. And you have to wonder if Hector Camacho is having a tough time making a weight because he tired so badly in the late rounds.
Here is Haugen coming on, fighting to the end. Will it be a bitter end, or will it be a glorious end?
What do you think, George?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. Haugen came on in the latter rounds, but I think Camacho stole too many of the first rounds to lose the boxing match. That's why he was confident enough to hold in the last round. But close because Haugen put on such a nice show at the end.
Something for both fighters to be proud of.
Oh, my goodness. When you see them hug like that, each fighter knows I've done my best. That's all that counts in the end. When you've
Let's
done your
go
best,
to Michael Buffer for the official decision with a lot of suspense.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's the official scoring. We have a split decision. Bert Clements scores the bout 115 to 112.
Hector Camacho has left the ring. First judge scores it.
Tucker scores the bout 115 to 112. He has it for Hector Camacho. And Dave Moretti scores about 114 to 113 for the winner by split decision, Hector Camacho.
On the nose. Hector Camacho must have thought that he was about to get the short end again. He left the ring and went halfway to the dressing room. Somebody convinced him to turn around and come back, and he got back to the ring just in time to hear that this time it is he who gets the benefit of the split decision. What a rivalry these two have going now. And we'll take a look at final punch stat numbers in the bout, which will no doubt show us that Camacho was slightly the busier of the two fighters, throwing about 125 more punches and landing at a higher rate. Haugen landed more hard punches in the late rounds, but the first 6 rounds were a brilliant display by Camacho. We go to Larry Merchant with the winner.
Hector, that wasn't like any fight we ever saw you fight. Why did you decide you had to be so aggressive?
Larry, to tell you the truth, I felt strong, I felt fast, but I still wasn't as accurate as I was in the gym. I made one slight mistake coming into the fight again. I had a little too late, and the body shot was bothering me. But, you know, this guy, the first victory he had over me, which I thought I won anyway, you know, just motivates this guy. Larry, I don't say the gym, I'm sure. Either the age is getting to me, but I won. I thought I won, but still, it was like it's getting hard.
It's getting hard. Without the training you did, the serious training for the first time in your life, could you have won this fight?
Yeah, I thought I won the fight, but that fight, I know, I got to get a little bit more soft. I wasn't quite happy now. I swear I wasn't.
Is he a better, slicker fighter than it appears from the outside of the ring?
Yes, he is. Because I can't reach him. I can't reach with my jab. Even when I try, his jab was kind of being the last one to hit, you know. He fought a great fight. This guy, I don't know what to hate him, you know. I don't hate him. I still hate him because he gave me 2 terrific fights.
But he goaded you again into doing something that the referee took a point away from you for, and it almost cost you the fight again.
I thought, that's when I walked out of the ring. Because, you know, I've been in his whole town. But, you know what I mean? I got to stay in the gym because I got to get sharp. I still don't got what I'm looking for.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for softness, awkwardness, everything off the slope, very effective. I'm trying, but maybe I'm just a little slight hesitating. I just got to stay in the gym.
Is that because you're suggesting because you're getting older, or is it because you're trying to change your style?
No, I'm not trying to change my style, but it could be we both getting older.
All right. Do you feel, given the closeness of the first match, he won a split decision, you won a split decision this time, that you guys should have a third match to decide it all?
You know, with the kind of money that we're getting, if he's down making, we should get on next month again. And then I can be a little more sharper.
You're saying for the kind of money you're getting, you'll fight him every other month?
Yeah, hell yeah. If he promised not to just pick up his strength or his face a little better.
Okay, thank you, Hector. Jim?
Well, you heard it. He said for the kind of money that they're getting, he'd fight him every other month. You've already put in your vote for a rematch.
I'll tell you one thing, I'd pay. No matter what the price of the tickets would be, I'd pay.
Do you think Haugen would have a chance of winning a rematch?
Definitely. Hector Camacho is a great fighter. He's bigger, he's older. He's a puncher now. We're going to see a great fight in the near future.
This is a close battle. Off of a battle like this, does Camacho now deserve consideration for fights against fighters like Julio Cesar Chavez or Meldrick Taylor, who sat behind us and at whom Camacho stared between rounds a couple times late in the fight?
As a matter of fact, I think he would do a lot better against those fighters because they would be a little more cautious in running in. Haugen was, hey, I don't respect you. He was able to get in a little more and be a little more effective than the other fighters would be. I think he could beat Chavez. I really do believe that.
That's quite a call, George. Let's go up to the ring and see what... All right, let's see what Greg Haugen has to say to Larry Merchant.
Time the split decision went against you. Were you surprised in the early rounds by the way Camacho fought you? And was that the difference in the fight?
Well, I wasn't really surprised. I think he was conserving energy. I thought I won the fight in the later rounds. All he did is hold. Fucking referee didn't do nothing. He did a shitty job. I mean, the guy held me 20 times, and the referee said, quit holding, Hector, quit holding. He never once ever did anything about it.
But he gave you a point for a little...
So what?
All right, but let's
talk about... He was tired. He didn't want to fight.
Let's talk about the fight. In the first fight, you won many of the early rounds. You seemed to surprise him. In this fight, he built up his lead in the early rounds. What was the difference?
Well, I don't know. It depends on who's judging the fight. I don't think he built up an early lead, but I thought the rounds were close. You know, it's a split decision. That's 2 times. You think Dubas will give me a rematch? I doubt it.
Okay, so he has said he'd be willing to fight you. You want to fight him again?
Sure, I thought I won the fight.
Okay, Jim, we have a unanimous from the fighters. They will fight each other again. We'll see if the promoters and the public and HBO wants it again.
Yeah, we're going to find out, Larry. That's the good news. Haugen just said to Larry that he wants to fight Camacho again, so maybe you're going to get your wish, George. Maybe you're going to get your wish, George. Have you had fun?
I've had a lot of fun. It's been one of the greatest evenings I've ever spent with some of the greatest announcers in the world.
Well, get ready. All right, we're going to take it easy. Get ready to do it again in just a couple of weeks because World Championship Boxing on HBO is coming back real soon. Let's tell you right now about our next visit with George Foreman to your household. In June, we'll showcase 2 of boxing's most exciting fighters when HBO Sports takes to the desert of Palm Springs for a World Championship Boxing doubleheader.
Get ready, fight fans. Terrible Terry Norris is coming to HBO.
Then WBA welterweight champion Meldrick Taylor takes center stage. Brady punches inside, and Chavez again seems to wobble slightly. And Taylor lands at will. 2 World Championship fights. Terry Norris versus Donald Curry. Meldrick Taylor versus Luis Garcia. Live June 1 on HBO. Stay tuned immediately following tonight's boxing coverage for One Night Stand, Michael Collier on the East Coast and Love You to Death on the West Coast. So now for Larry Merchant and George Foreman, I'm Jim Lampley saying so long from Reno, Nevada. The executive producer of HBO Sports is Ross Greenberg. Tonight's telecast was produced by Michael J. Whalen and directed by Mark Payton. The feature producers, Brian McDonald and Kendall Reed. The replay producer was David Harmon. Assistant to the producer, Arthur Curry. Production manager, Russell Gabay. And the technical supervisor was Bob Hunter.
Don't miss this knockout doubleheader.
Live Saturday, June 1st, 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific on HBO.
Un saludo muy especial para todos los amigos.